A new name for a brand new stadium. Members of the school board moving forward tonight with one thing in mind: the community. Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started. After years of debate and months of construction, the new downtown stadium is slated to be completed by the fall of this year, but there is one big item that has yet to be ironed out. What will it be named? KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk was at tonight's Spokane Public School Board meeting where members laid out the criteria. Kyle?
Well, this new facility is replacing Joe Albi Stadium in Northwest Spokane, which was demolished last year. Tonight, school board members heard from a close relative of Joe Albi who thinks the new stadium should also bear his name. After months of moving dirt and pouring concrete, the new downtown stadium is starting to take shape.
I just came by to see the progress here.
James Albi comes here often.
Joe Albi was my cousin and I was close to him, and he did some wonderful things for Spokane.
The stadium, named after his cousin Joe, was demolished this year.
The concerts that they went to, and just maybe they met their husband or their wife there. People learned to drive their cars out there. It's a good part of Spokane.
But James says he fully supports the new stadium and its location. There's just one thing he'd like to see happen.
He did more for Spokane in sports than anyone ever has or ever will do. The school board and the Public Facilities District have the naming rights, and Joe Albi's name needs to be on this.
Spokane Public Schools and the Public Facilities District have the naming rights, and tonight's school board members approved a set of criteria in selecting a name and potential sponsor. The district says based on SPS policy and procedure number 6970, the desired names allowable within the language are the Spokane Stadium or the Downtown Spokane Stadium. Officials say it would also be consistent with other public facilities like the Spokane Arena and the Spokane Convention Center. The policy says that portions of school facilities may also be named after individuals who've made noteworthy contributions.
I get the feeling that there's going to be some feelings of ill will if Joe's name is not put on it.
This is not saying that the name of the stadium will or will not include the Joe Albi name, but it will be a mutual discussion.
Dr. Mark Anderson tells KREM 2 the district and Public Facilities District want to honor Albi's legacy, possibly with a statue and a plaque. But there's also other naming opportunities, such as the plaza, the field, or the road next to the stadium. And it's unclear how soon the school board and PFD will be ready to select a name. The stadium is expected to be finished by this fall. In the studio, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Kyle, thank you very much. Also on the docket tonight, new security cameras for the parking lot at Lewiston Clark High School. The board approved the security additions with no issues at tonight's meeting, and that means the school now has more than $300,000 to put towards 32 new cameras.
I woke up to what sounded like a thunderstorm, like just a big torrential summer thunderstorm, but it sounded probably 3 times louder.
That sound, water rushing in after a reservoir failed early this morning in Lewiston. The damage immediate and extensive. Both a boil order and a request for a disaster declaration in place tonight as people struggle to cope with flooded streets and knee-deep mud.
Our basement was probably flooded with about 4.5 feet of water. Pretty much wiped out all the stuff down there.
All city water customers are still under a boil water advisory as of tonight. Fortunately, the reservoir is not expected to be a complete loss. It is not clear tonight the cause of that reservoir failure. All right, let's talk weather. Right on cue, the snow started coming down earlier this evening in parts of Spokane at least, but will it stick? Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoo for the answer. Jeremy.
Mark, that's such a great question. I'm just going to avoid it.
Oh, perfect.
No, I'm kidding. We will talk that question here in just a second. But notice downtown, all wet right now as the snow continues to melt as it comes down. And yes, we are seeing it pretty heavy here in eastern Washington. But what's happening is things are continuing to progress to the east quite nicely. Ritzville now out of it, a couple of stray showers back behind. And here in town, it's rain changing over to snow. And I think that changeover just kind of happens a little too late. And by the time we get to Thursday, most of this stuff is up in North Idaho. It eventually moves out by Thursday afternoon. We're talking a little bit of sunshine. So do we get anything? I don't think we do here in Spokane. Coeur d'Alene, less than an inch. St. Mary's, less than an inch. Kellogg, less than an inch. Sandpoint, maybe 1 to 2. Pullman, you're kind of on the less than an inch thing now. It looks like we're getting a lot less than we anticipated. Really, it's going to be kind of Deer Park, Newport, the only spots that are getting it, and then we dry out the next few days.
Sounds good, Jeremy. We'll check back in with you later in the broadcast. Well, tonight, a look inside the suspected killer's apartment from newly unsealed court documents. We now know what investigators in Moscow found when they went through Brian Koberger's belongings. We got those court documents today and spent time looking them over. We learned that investigators were not leaving anything to chance. The warrant covered any items with blood, hair, skin cells, or fingerprints. It also got specific. Investigators wanted to find dark clothes, masks, knives, and shoes with a diamond pattern matching the print found at the crime scene. From that warrant, a dozen items were taken from the suspect's apartment and office, including a single nitrile black glove, 8 possible hair strands, including a possible animal hair strand. The list also shows investigators collected a dark red spot and cut 2 reddish-brown stains from a pillow. Well, despite this new information, it will likely be several months before the suspect returns to court. The next time Koberger is due back in court in Latah County is June 26th for his preliminary hearing, and that's where he's expected to enter his plea. And now to our night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. 5 years, that is how long the man who burned down a Spokane Catholic church will spend in prison. This more than 2 years after the crime. Rio Mirabal set St. Charles Catholic Church offices and its attached school on fire back in 2021. Surveillance video on campus led to his arrest. He pleaded guilty last year and was just sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. 38-year-old Matthew Darnell caught on camera trying to pull a coffee stand barista through a drive-through window, according to police. Just hours ago, he appeared before a judge who found probable cause for a second-degree attempted kidnapping and fourth-degree assault charge. Officers say Darnell's distinct tattoo, seen in the surveillance video, played a large part in his arrest. He is now being held on $500,000 bail after the judge said he is a danger to the community. Accidental 911 calls are taking resources away from first responders, and the calls are all coming from the slopes. Skiers with smartwatches are triggering the emergency response. This because of a feature that sends an alert if you fall down. Calls from Schweitzer Mountain were up 30% over the weekend, and law enforcement said they treat each like the real deal until they know otherwise.
It's tough for us because it pulls resources away from the real needs. In some cases, there may be somebody there, and it does help us. But in most cases, it's been a false alarm.
Officers are asking people to disable that feature when heading up to the mountain. Well, we now know the parvo outbreak stopping Spokanimal from accepting any dogs could last a while and is incredibly hard to eradicate. The shelter says the virus can survive even in freezing temperatures.
It's more of the fecal or the bodily fluid transfer from dog to dog, but you can carry it on your shoes. It's a very hardy virus. It can live in the ground for many, many years through the cold, through the heat, through everything.
The shelter is now under quarantine for the next 14 days to make sure no other dogs have been infected. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just text us the word night to 509-448-2000 and we'll send them right to your phone. Well, a fake Washington billionaire who convinced his investors he was a Harvard graduate pleaded guilty today after conning marijuana companies across the West Coast out of $35 million. According to federal court documents, 42-year-old Justin Costello capitalized on the fact that legal marijuana companies can't use normal banking services.
Oftentimes that makes them very susceptible to financial services predators. So, this is something that we've seen across the board for almost a decade now, and we will continue to see until Congress takes action and provides a safe harbor for financial institutions to be able to provide services to the cannabis industry without fear of repercussion.
The FBI arrested Costello in Southern California with a fake ID and more than $60,000 in cash. Also new tonight, another Washington man pleaded guilty for his involvement in the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Kevin Cronin, Sr. from Puyallup, faces up to 6 months in prison for the charge of parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building. He also faces a fine of up to $5,000. Misdemeanor charges were also filed against Cronin and his 2 sons, Kevin and Dylan, last June. And that was your KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where you get more news in less time. But don't go to bed just yet. Navigating vacation and sick time can certainly get tricky, but can employers in Washington combine the two into paid time off, or PTO? All verified coming up after the break. Plus, massive layoffs causing stress across the state tonight, which major employers are next on the chopping block. We are back in just 90 seconds.